Namaskar. A very warm welcome to all the viewers of Atharva Forum. Today, we have a very special session with a noted researcher, Dr. Pawan Goyal. He is a computer scientist at IIT Kharagpur, and he works in the area of natural language processing and computational linguistics. Today, we see the words artificial intelligence and machine learning thrown around merely to catch attention most of the time. And so, it is our good fortune that we have a genuine researcher like Dr. Pawan Goyal spending time with us to help us understand how these things can make a difference in areas like natural language processing and particularly the language of Sanskrit. So, welcome, Dr. Pawan Goyal. Welcome to Atharva, and we genuinely thank you for sparing your time with us.
Thank you, Vaspiji, and thank you, Atharva Forum, for inviting me here. And also, warm welcome to all the viewers of Atharva Forum.
So, Dr. Goyal, we'll start with understanding your early motivation to pursue research in natural language processing and, in particular, Sanskrit.
It was my initial interest in Indian spiritual text that led me to Sanskrit, and then it was my interest in Sanskrit that led me to NLP. So it all started when I was doing my bachelor's, so in IIT Kanpur, 2003-2007. So when there was one of the professors at IIT Kanpur, Professor Lakshmidhar Behra, he used to conduct sessions on Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam in his house. And I attended those sessions, and I was really amazed by the treasure that we have in our Indian spiritual text. And I actually went deep into the books, and I started developing a lot of respect for this literature. And I remember going to Professor Behra's house and listening to all these nice chants of Srimad Bhagavatam, also from Brahma Samhita, and so many literatures. So Professor Behra saw that I'm interested in Sanskrit, and he motivated me that why don't you take up Sanskrit as a research field, and why don't you do research in this field? And he also helped me by having a Sanskrit scholar, Acharya Sanskritananda Hari, in 2006 summer coming to IIT Kanpur. So he taught us Sanskrit for a month, and that is where I started my journey in Sanskrit. So during my bachelor's itself, I started working on a project, how to analyze Sanskrit text for dependency relations. And yeah, so this was the start. And later on, I went on doing my PhD, then postdoc, and I joined IIT Kharagpur in 2013. And since then, I have been working to develop digital infrastructure that are computer-aided tools that can process Sanskrit language and develop applications that will be of use for various people, including Sanskrit students, teachers, and various enthusiasts.
So, obviously, this is an interdisciplinary research, right? So, can you enlighten us as to the different areas of knowledge that form part of this research?
Yes, of course. So when I started getting interested into Sanskrit, I came to know that okay, to do something for computational processing of Sanskrit, I need to have knowledge of natural language processing. So that was a must, and that is why during my PhD I spent a lot of time in understanding the basics of natural language processing, or NLP in brief. So that is most important, and of course the knowledge of Sanskrit is required. And NLP in itself is an interdisciplinary field, so that would require knowledge of statistics, programming, and machine learning and other areas.
Who are your target audience at this point of time with your research? And if I may add, what are the target applications you have in mind at this point of time?
So target audiences have been mainly the Sanskrit teachers and Sanskrit students, so they can use these tools to teach and learn Sanskrit in an interactive manner. And that is what we have seen over the years, that different people across the globe have mentioned how they have been using these tools and have benefited by the interactive nature of these tools. So they are the primary audience. And apart from that, we have been developing these tools for Sanskrit enthusiasts. So by that I mean those people who who have deep interest in Sanskrit literature. They want to read the literature, and also while doing that, they want to learn. They want to learn the language. So that means I cannot just give them a literature with its translation in English or any other language. They want to see the actual Sanskrit text, and they want to interact with that. Okay, what is the so because in this text, what is the actual padapata? What are the individual words involved in this sentence? What is the morphology? What are the vibhaktis in this sentence? And then how are the words connected with each other? What is the karaka analysis, dependency analysis here? And similarly, then what if many of the texts are in the poetry format? So can I also convert that into prose format? So they want to do that while reading the text. So we want to facilitate that by using our tools that they can go through Sanskrit literature and do all these analysis at the same time. And these, and to answer your last point, yeah, these are the target applications right now. Given a Sanskrit text, find out the word analysis, do the segmentation, word segmentation, then do the morphological analysis, do the vibhakti, do the karaka analysis, dependency between words, and also convert poetry to prose. So these are the initial main applications.
In this line of research, if you had to list the major challenges that you face, both technical as well as non-technical, what would they be?
Yeah, so of course, so this field has its own challenges. So of course, while we are doing research on the field of Sanskrit computational linguistics, we have to deal with the language aspect. So Sanskrit in itself is challenging because yeah, it's morphologically very, very rich, and a lot of text comes in the form of poetry. So we have to do, we cannot use the other models that are built for sequential processing of language. So that cannot be directly applied. We have to do something special for Sanskrit. So like that, there are challenges in the language itself. But if apart from that, once we start working on this field, the main challenge comes, okay, like as a researcher, as a faculty member here, I need students who will work on this in this field. So I need good PhD students who are not only interested in Sanskrit, they know some basics of Sanskrit, they are interested and motivated in Sanskrit. They also are very good programmers and they know about the field of natural language processing. So this combination many times is very, very hard to get. So, and then of course, there are other challenges like for doing machine learning, we need data. We need data that has been annotated by some labels. So for example, we need, given the sentence, what are the actual word segmentation for the sentence? That has to be manually labeled. So for this manual labeling, we need support of Sanskrit scholars, and this annotation has to be done on using computer tools. So then the Sanskrit scholars also should be familiar with the computational tools so that they can help with these annotations. And finally, the last challenge is, of course, for doing any research work, we require support and funding. So we have tried a lot, but there was not too much support in terms of funding for the work in Sanskrit. Yeah.
That is sad to hear, actually. So, any efforts you have made, or are there any ongoing efforts that are likely to yield fruit in the near future, or this is mostly like motivation driven at this point of time, largely?
Yeah, this has been motivation driven, and I have tried applying for a lot of funding. Even now, I am trying to apply for funding so that uh, we can actually get more students, more scholars working on this problem. Yeah, so and I'm hopeful in near future we will get more support from government and other agencies.
Yeah, we also hope so. We hope that works like this get the support and patronage they deserve. So going forward, Dr. Goyal, we'll try to get into a bit of details now. Can you briefly describe the capabilities your research and the resultant tools have provided to the Sanskrit world? If I have to press further, could you please answer this question both from the point of view of a learner as well as an expert?
Sure, sure. So, I'll go to my postdoc times to get more context around these tools. So during my postdoctoral fellowship, I was at INRIA Paris campus, and I was working with Professor Gerard Huet, so who is a pioneer in the field of Sanskrit computational linguistics. So he has been working on these tools from 1994, for like 27 years now. So I was working with him, where the main theme, the main attraction of his work was Sanskrit Heritage Reader site, where one can give a Sanskrit sentence as input in any transcoding format, and this will give all the possible ways of analyzing that sentence. So even if that sentence has like thousands and even sometimes millions of analysis, it will provide all the possible analysis. And with the analysis, it will provide all the morphological information, and also one can interact with that, find out for each word the root form, what is its French translation, because he was developing a Sanskrit French dictionary. So all this is available on the website sanskrit.india.fr, and there are many other tools, like one can learn the Sandhi rules, one can see all the declensions and conjugations for nouns and verbs, and many other facilities are available. So I was there working with him on this tool and was trying to add some more functionalities. So one of the functionality we added there was, so till then, so we had access to a Sanskrit French dictionary. And we said, okay, many of the readers would like to also have a Sanskrit to English dictionary. So we added support for Monier-Williams in the same interface. Secondly, many sentences we found, they were like many possible solutions. So I'll show an example from Kalidasa, where we had 7 billion possible solutions. Now it was just impossible to list all of these. So we worked on a very nice summary interface, where on the single visual page, one can find out all the possible analysis. So totally summarized. And then somebody who's an expert in Sanskrit, as an annotator, can go and click on what are the correct candidates from all the possible solutions. So this was another very important functionality that we had added. So this is where I was in my postdoc. So one problem till that point was that, so their manual intervention was required, so that we can go from all the possible analysis to one final solution. So during my stay at IIT Kharagpur, with the help of my PhD student, mainly Amrit Krishna, we tried to automate this process, that instead of an annotator having to select the correct solutions, can an AI-based model not do that? And that is where, so we worked on this problem, and as a result of this work in 2020, so we had this paper, a graph-based framework for structure prediction task in Sanskrit, that was published in Computational Linguistics, MIT Press. So in that work, we have shown that we can actually use a very nice graph-based framework to solve all these problems by using machine learning. So we are able to solve the problem of word segmentation, morphological analysis, and the other problems that I mentioned in a unified framework. Now, technically, what is interesting about this work is that, as I said, Sanskrit is having its own challenges, because much of the text is in the form of poetry. So now we cannot apply the models that go from left to right processing. So in this work, what we did, we took the initial sentence, converted into a graph format, where all the words are connected to each other, and we do not utilize the word order, so that we can actually make use of the free word order nature of the Sanskrit language. And from the single unified framework, we try to propose various inference tasks at the runtime, so that we can go for different solutions. We can go for dependency parsing by doing an inference of a Steiner tree. We can go for word segmentation by inferencing a maximal click. We can go for poetry to prose by inferencing a Hamiltonian path. So this was a very nice framework that came up, and that is why this was appreciated by the research community.
It is indeed a wonderful and elegant piece of work. When you use it, it's the amount of hard work and complexity that has gone in is not readily apparent. So this small insight which you provided enlightens us a lot on this matter. So going forward, Dr. Goyal, there are two streams of Sanskrit if you see, the Vedic Sanskrit as well as the Paninian Sanskrit. Right? The Paninian systematization happened a lot later than the Vedic texts. Right? So in your scope of research, do you have any scope for Vedic Sanskrit, or is it purely Paninian Sanskrit that you're dealing with?
Nice questions. Actually, till now, in our tools, we have mainly been dealing with the Paninian system. So we have made use of Paninian system and the Girard-Huet system that does all the conjugations and declensions based on Paninian system. But of course, what we do, we try to lexicalize some forms that are accepted by the Vedic Sanskrit. We do not generate them, but we lexicalize them so that the system can recognize. But I cannot say that the system is complete with respect to the Vedic Sanskrit. So this is some work to do.
Okay, that is perfectly fine. So because the Paninian system gives you a good solid framework to work with, whereas Vedic Sanskrit is a little more amorphous relative to Paninian system. So I understand the additional complexity you'll have to deal with.
Sure.
Going forward, Dr. Goyal, even inside the Paninian system, there is an enormous set of possibilities in each aspect of grammar. So, for example, right, if you just take the Kriyapada or the Dhatu section, there are many possibilities like Tingantas, Kridantas, Sannantas, young looks, and a few more. So, are your tools able to deal with all of them, or is it a work in progress?
So our base model is coming from Girard-Huet's Sanskrit Heritage Engine. Now, what Girard has done, he has made provision for all the possible Tigantas. So all the Tiganta forms are actually generated. And most of the Kridanta forms are also generated by the system. But so that system makes a balance. It makes a balance. So whatever forms the system cannot generate, it tries to see what are the most common forms available in the literature, and it tries to lexicalize them directly. So for example, the Nam Dhatus, they are lexicalized, they are not generated by the system. But once they are put in the dictionary, then their further conjugations are already taken care by the system. So this is like a balanced approach that the system has taken. And we have seen that by this balanced approach, this can cover most of the verbal forms. And time to time, yeah, this is updated whenever we come to know of any incompleteness in terms of certain verbal forms, we try to update that. And the final AI system actually uses this base system, and whatever can be recognized by this base system is already used by the AI system.
This is the set of possibilities we were discussing only from a grammatical perspective, but even the lexicon of Sanskrit words is enormous, and even the most elaborate of dictionaries will end up missing a few, and they are mostly idiomatic ones. So we were just wondering how you are handling that challenge.
Yeah, it's a very important question. And actually, I had a lot of discussions with Professor Girard-Huet about this. Because as such, if we see Monier-Williams has much more coverage than the dictionary that Girard uses. And I had this question, why do we not lexicalize all the possible forms that are there? And he had a very good reasoning for that. So he mentioned, so what happens generally in the case of poetry, what happens? So in poetry, we use very small words. Sometimes single syllable words are used to denotes either the demigods or different entities. And these are very good for poetry. But suppose we lexicalize these single syllable words in our dictionary, what will happen? All the declensions will come and they will clutter all our segmentation solution space. So from the computational perspective, it did not. So he said it makes more sense to not lexicalize the small words. Like he gave example of V. V is actually means a particular bird, but V is also a preverb that we can use, and they will clash. So that is why some of these forms are not lexicalized. But at the same time, so what we have done, we have made a special provision that somebody is working on a given corpus. In that corpus, there are certain forms that are not in our system. We have a provision to lexicalize them locally on the interface, so that all these forms will be recognized by the system once only the root form is lexicalized locally. So that is an extra provision that we have made. And that can be helpful for dealing with different corpora, like if we are dealing with Ayurveda corpora. So there will be various new forms that are not generically available, but they can be separately added.
So Dr. Goyal, in the course of this explanation, you used the phrase lexicalize a few times, right? So for the benefit of our viewers, can you just briefly elaborate on that?
So in the computational system, what happened? So So the way it works is that, first of all, it generates all the possible forms from all the dhatus and all the Tikandas and all the Sugandha forms are actually generated by the system. And for that, it has to lexicalize. What by lexicalization I mean, they have to be added in the system dictionary. So an example can be pat. Pat is a dhatu. Pat is a dhatu, and that will be in the system dictionary. Now, once it is lexicalized, it is put in the dictionary. Now there is a separate engine that will produce all its declensions. And once the declensions are produced by the system, they will be stored in various data banks. And these data banks are used at runtime when we have to recognize a sentence. So all these forms will be recognized by the system. So whatever root forms are lexicalized, all their declensions and conjugations are taken care by the system for doing its recognition.
So the process that you just described, this happens in runtime?
No. So actually this is a combination of two things. So the creation of all the data banks has already happened offline, so that at runtime, the system is really fast. So you give a sentence, even if it had millions of solutions, you will not even notice that something is happening at the back end of the system. This is so fast, and that is all because of the use of finite state methods by Professor Gerard. This is really.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the speed of the interface, just to make it obvious.
Yeah, so at runtime it is very fast.
Okay. So that was a very nice explanation, and thanks for giving us that level of detail. So beyond the vast lexicon and the elaborate grammatical possibilities which we just discussed, right? What other challenges did the language itself pose to you?
Right. So I mentioned these challenges. Let me describe these in more details. So I'll talk about two challenges. One is the phenomena of Sandhi. So now what happens due to Sandhi? So I teach here natural language processing in IIT Kharagpur. So there we start with the problem of word segmentation. So word segmentation is nothing but taking a sentence and finding out the individual words involved. Now, for a language like English, what happens? You can just take the spaces and you can separate the words just by the spaces. That is very, very easy doing the segmentation. But now let's take a language like Sanskrit. So what happens? Many times we will have very long sequences of characters without any space. And for that, I need to, so let me also give a bit more context around it. So if we see any application like search, question answering that we use on Google, so this all depends on what are the individual tokens in that sequence, and where do I find, how do I do keyword matching for these tokens. So unless I find the words in the first place, how will I even think about building a search system or a question answering system? So that is where in Sanskrit, even doing that first step, word segmentation, is a huge challenge in itself. And as I mentioned, till now there were systems that were able to produce all the candidates, but how to find the one final solution? So that is where that was the challenge that we tried to tackle. The second challenge that comes in is the free word automation. So especially when we are dealing with text that is poetry, we cannot make use of a typical typology like, oh, I will have the subject verb object or subject object verb, some sort of typology. And that is what is utilized by the traditional language models that are the backbone for natural language processing. So we cannot directly use models that are like so prevalent in NLP, so that go from left to right processing, that are not directly applicable for Sanskrit. So these are the two main challenges that created problem in applying what is the currently available in NLP directly to Sanskrit. So we have to develop something from scratch, I can say, for processing Sanskrit text.
Yeah, I can imagine, considering the anvayas that are required for verses and all that. So I can actually appreciate the challenge you must be facing. So Dr. Goyal, the other curious thing for me is how you deal with the variety of meters that the language of Sanskrit has. So there are many meters ranging from the shortest Anushtup to very long ones like Sragdhara. So I was just wondering what kind of a challenge it poses to you when you have to sort of look at the possibilities of Anvaya between small and large meters and everything in between.
Yeah, so actually Anvaya quite challenging, Anvaya is quite challenging. So one good thing is that for all these meters, we have their actual expression available. We know what are the particular regular expression that correspond to these meters. So that information we had. And 2000, around 2013, we also worked on a tool that can take any Sanskrit verse and find out what is its corresponding meter. So these tools are also available. But given a particular Sanskrit poetry, the right now whatever system does, it finds out all it actually forgets the word order. It forgets the word order. It finds out all the possible ways you can connect the words, and from there, what is the best possible path that you can generate. So this is a solution completely rooted in AI, with the help of certain insights that we have put from various constraints. What are the linguistic constraints that can help us decide what will be a better path? By path, I mean the prose order that I should finally output. So this is combined with the use of AI and the linguistic constraints that we have actually gathered by the help of various Sanskrit scholars, and they are all encoded in the system.
In case there is a mistake in terms of meter, okay, in only one of the padas, let's say, how does your system react? Does it still go and analyze, or it sort of, does your algorithm, is it able to adapt to, let's say, an erroneous input, very minor error?
Right. So generally, we deal it in two different ways. So I remember when initially I was working on this Sanskrit meter analysis. So in the input file I was able to catch certain errors because they were not actually matching to any patterns, and we were able to say, oh, this should be an error, and actually we found out there was an error. Secondly, what happens if we give an erroneous input to the system will flag, okay, this word is not recognized. And that is where in the flag, if one clicks, one can actually find out the possible alternatives, and one can select, oh no, this is the correct answer correct word that one should have given. So that facility is given in the interface. So one can correct it and then feed it back, and then it will again analyze. Of course, we could have gone one step further, saying, oh, we think this is the correct answer. But right now we are not putting that very confident. We are saying, oh, these are the possibilities. You have to select and then tell us.
As of today, can your tools provide any kind of semantic support, or is it purely syntactical as of now?
So right now, most of the support is for syntactical tasks. So we see all these word segmentation and dependency parsing. They are mostly syntactic tasks. Even Anvaya is the way we are doing is mostly syntactic. But while we are doing the syntactic task, we are making use of the semantics because we are seeing from the corpus what kind of patterns are generally occurring in the data, and we are making use of that. Now the tasks, as I said, are mostly syntactic, but going further, we are trying more semantic tasks. Like, how do I now go to a problem like question answering? That will be more semantic in nature. So these are the kind of next challenges that we are focusing on.
Yeah, very glad to know, because with my limited knowledge, I'm thinking that's a bigger problem to solve for you. What are the adjacent areas of research you have enabled by your own research? I mean, are there other researchers around the world who are using your solutions to solve some other problems related to Sanskrit?
Right. So first of all, what we have done, we have tried. So in the field of NLP, there is something called benchmarking the data sets and benchmarking the performance. So this was not there for Sanskrit. So what we have done, we have tried to publish our research in the top NLP conferences so that we can actually establish what are the benchmark data sets available for, say, word segmentation and compound analysis, for dependency parsing, so that we know, okay, this is the current performance, and then we give the data set, and then researchers across the globe can use the same data set, try their own methods, and try to improve that performance. So this is something that we have done, and we are actually happy to see that many people have taken up these data sets. They have tried to even come up with better solutions for solving this. And this year, in this forum for information retrieval evaluation that is conducted every year, so we are launching a task on word segmentation and morphological parsing for Sanskrit. So it's like a hackathon. So where different teams across the globe can participate and on a data set and show what is the performance. And we were glad that more than 25 teams have registered already, and there are actually time left for registration. So we are hoping that many more teams will be interested in joining this effort. And further, now coming to what are the other areas we have enabled. So this work is very, very recent, like this just came out in 2020. And we have our own plans, but one important area that where this work has been utilized right now is automatic speech recognition, ASR for Sanskrit. So this is a work that is happening with collaboration with IIT Bombay. So where we are making use of these morphological constraints to even help speech processing. So how do we better do ASR for Sanskrit? That is being helped by the system that we have developed.
Glad to hear that, Dr. Goyal. One of the concerns a Sanskrit enthusiast like me has is this. A large number of Sanskrit manuscripts, many of them in different scripts found around the country, might not be decipherable once the last few experts in those areas are gone. So is there any research going on where AI-based tools are being employed to decipher ancient Sanskrit manuscripts found using different scripts around the country?
Right. So as I mentioned, my research is mainly around the text, handling the text data directly. But I know there are various research groups who are working with the OCR part, recognizing the Devanagari script. But I have not come across many works that are doing it for with different scripts for Sanskrit. So now one possible way AI tools can be utilized here, they can be helpful, is that at least for each script, we have one book that is completely uh, uh, that is in another script, but also transcribed into, say, Devanagari lipi. So we have the corresponding one-to-one correspondence between that script and Devanagari, at least for one book, and maybe a video recording from a scholar who knows that script. That how do we map from that particular script to Devanagari script? So if we have that for at least for one book, I think AI tools can be helpful for taking any other book in that script and coming up with the corresponding Devanagari lipi transcription. And then once we go to Devanagari, then we can make use of the current tools available. So that is one thought that I have. Maybe that is how we can preserve all this knowledge.
So I was thinking of some scenarios like this. You have manuscripts which are already deciphered. So you use that as the basis for training an engine, which can then work on newer manuscripts which are not deciphered yet, and help us decipher it. So is that something which somebody is trying?
So I think, this is a problem people are trying with even other scripts. But I think this is a very good research, actually a very good research plan, and a lot of good work can be done around this in Sanskrit. As I say, I'm not aware of any particular group who is doing that, but this is actually doable. This is actually doable with the help of the current AI tools.
Okay, Dr. Goyal. So what is the long-term vision you are pursuing with this line of research?
One of the long-term visions that I have is to have the processing of Sanskrit text as seamless as we can do for English. So for example, the way we are able to do conversations in English, we have conversation agents that are talking in English. Also now they are available in some Indian languages. So can we have the same sort of seamless conversation with Sanskrit? So I can do search, I can do question answering, I can do speech to speech, text to speech, everything for Sanskrit. That is one of the main visions that I have. And the second important vision is that so Sanskrit is the only language for which this huge amount of linguistic science was developed. So there's a lot of literature, starting from Pani grammar to Vakyapadya. There's so much science about analyzing the sentence, analyzing the sound that we have in our tradition. Now, how do we show that all this knowledge can actually contribute to not only processing Sanskrit but also processing general Indian languages and even language across the world? And that will be a huge contribution that can actually bring these contributions by our scholars in the limelight. I remember going to the conference in 2016, Computational Linguistics Conference, and that was like a keynote speaker talking and saying the dependency pass that was like very current in the NLP. So he said the first person who did dependency passing, who gave this theory, was Panini. So that is how you feel pride. Yeah, okay, 2,500 years ago, there was a mathematician and informatician that India had that wrote such a beautiful treatise, and that people are referring in that. So, and the same can be done for all the different linguistic science that India has produced.
Yeah, indeed. So, largely agree with everything, all the sentiments you have behind the solid research that you're doing. So, we are extremely grateful for this absorbing talk that you had with us today. So, finally, I just want to ask you if there is any message you want to give or request you want to make to the community of Sanskrit readers and enthusiasts.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I'll request people, to all the viewers who are seeing this, all the Sanskrit enthusiasts, that yeah, please go and see our tools. Please try these and see whether they are actually helpful to you. I'm sure they will be, because many people have given this feedback that this is helping them. And if you find any particular issues with the tool, please get back to us, because this is all based on technology, and any mistakes can be corrected. So we will be happy to find out if there are mistakes, and we will be happy to correct that. Other than that, this effort needs your help. So if there are students out there who want to pursue research in this field, they are good in programming, they are actually motivated about Sanskrit, they want to pursue research in that, please come forward and contact us. Also, if there are Sanskrit scholars who want to help in other ways, like doing data annotations. So data annotations are very important for machine learning. So that will be very helpful. And finally, if you think there are important challenging problems that need to be solved, and you think that somebody should solve that, please come forward and tell us the problems, and we will see if there is some way we can make use of AI tools to try and progress around those. So yeah, I think these are the main points I would mention.
Much appreciated, Dr. Goyal. So, is there any forum or discussion group or some thing that people can subscribe for to engage with you?
So right now, I think the best possible way is my email ID that I will mention. So I'll mention here. So yeah, that is the best possible way. And of course, yeah, it's a good idea. Maybe we can think about in future starting of a separate forum on which this can be discussed.
Great, Dr. Goyal. So we can't thank you enough for the time you spared for Atharva Forum and for our viewers. This was a highly enlightening session for us to know all the great things that are happening in natural language processing, and particularly Sanskrit, and the complexities involved in this kind of research. So, on behalf of everyone on Atharva Forum, I thank you and wish you the very best with all your research, and look forward to see many people, students as well as enthusiasts, engaging with you and hopefully enriching your work. We will definitely be looking forward to talking to you again in future, as and when your next milestones in research happen. So, very grateful for your time, and thanks once again.
No, also thanks for your time and very interesting questions that helped me elaborate various aspects about this research and what are the challenges. So yeah, thanks a lot for this very engaging discussions.
So we also encourage all the viewers of Atharva Forum to basically subscribe to Atharva Forum and have the pleasure of watching many more such videos with other eminent researchers and scholars. So please do subscribe to the Atharva Forum on Twitter as well as YouTube. Atharva Forum also needs your support to continue producing this kind of content. And thank you, one and all.